Hi there. With Halloween coming up, we've made a special kit that is an extension of the very useful monster curriculum that works with the Makey bit or the Bit Explorer. This kit is called Spooky Animatronics, and it lets you make a glow-in-the-dark animatronic head that you can make your own fun Halloween decorations with. In this case, we're going to show how you can make a simple cardboard version like this one that is responsive to sound. Every time it hears sound, the eyes and the mouth are moving. Let's talk about the kit, how to program it, and how to build a project like this one. Let's start with the kit. The kit itself, we call the Spooky Animatronics Kit. Let's see what's inside it. Inside it, you will find a glow-in-the-dark set of chatter teeth. You'll see that there is a gray geek servo motor here. It is not attached to the teeth just yet, and we're going to talk about why not. You'll also find these panning animatronic eyes that go back and forth. The light part of the eyes is glow in the dark, so when you see these in the dark, they'll glow. You'll see also that it has these holes here. These are designed to align with Lego, but we're going to use them as a way of fastening our eyes to the cardboard. You'll notice that this is not connected either, and we're going to cover why in a moment when we talk about our code and our build. These are the components of the kit. You'll see the insert. Don't throw it out just yet because this cutout guides will be useful in our cardboard build. So hang on to that little piece of paper. We will get back to it shortly. Let's figure out how to code these so that when there is sound, they move. And that is going to be using a feature of the microbit V2, which is the sound level sensor that's built into it. So let's go to the code. All right, so we are here in Microsoft MakeCode, and we are going to create a new project. This new project, I'm going to call it Spooky Animatronics. Okay. Oh, since it's the first program I'm making here, it's trying to give me a little tour, but I'm going to say no thank you to that. Since I'm using two servo motors in my kit, I want to add the servo motor extension. I go to extensions in my tabs in the middle, and I click on servo, micro servo library. I've now added the servo extension. So the servos are connected to pin 0 and to pin 2 on the back of our board, either the Makey bit or the Bit Explorer. We're going to take that and take into our forever block, not the servo, we're going to set servo P0 to angle something. All right, what is the angle of that servo? We want that angle to be mapped to the sound level. Let's take a look at the sound level, which is found in the input blocks. If I scroll down to this sound level, it says the sound level goes from 0 to 255. Now that's a big angle, and we don't really want to move that 0 to 255 degrees. So we're going to have to use one of the math blocks to map that sound level to a smaller angle. I'm going to start with 45 degrees on this one. So let's go to our math blocks. In our math blocks, there's this mapping function. I'm going to grab that and say set forever, set the angle of P0 from a low, so set the angle of sound level, map sound level from a low of 0. Remember, sound level goes as high as 255. And now we're going to say from a low of 0 to 45. All right, so now I have done that, and I'm going to plug in my microbit to explore how this works. I've plugged it into the USB cable, and I'm going to hit download. Since I have used this microbit before, it is paired, so it's just downloading. Otherwise, it might walk you through pairing it. All right, let's see what happened here. I'm going to plug in. Let's do it with the eyes first. So it's P0, which is the lower one. Gray is aligned with ground, so I'm going to plug it into the lower part, the little metal pieces up, And there's another set that's for P2, but first we're going to do P0. And so now, when I talk, I can hear something moving. So I told you earlier that I hadn't connected this yet. What I'm going to do is wait until I'm quiet. And connect it. Now, even though I'm not talking much, you'll see that those eyes are moving a lot. What's happening here? Well, let's take a look at the code. Remember, I mapped it from a low of 0 to 255. Maybe 0 is too low because maybe there's ambient noise and it's constantly moving to that ambient noise. So I'm going to change this from a low of 100 to a high of 255. Let's plug it in and download that again and see what happens. Now, you'll see it doesn't jiggle as much because it's not reacting to every tiny little noise. So that's pretty good. Now, the resting eyes is where it finishes. If I want it to be resting straight ahead, I would disconnect this, wait until I'm silent, and then push it on again. Oop, I pushed it off to the side a little, but you can see it's now looking off to the side. So I disconnect it. All right, this one's set pretty well. So we've got the first one moving how we want it to. Turn this off. Now let's look at this one. One thing you have to always check is the orientation of the cross on this. In some models, up and down is the resting position, and in this one, it seems to be resting at about 45 degrees. So now we have to make our code start at 45 and then move up, because if it goes down too much, see the code in this, the design of this teeth has this closed up and down. So let's take a look at our code again and see how we can design based on how our kit is actually built. And like I said, every motor is going to be slightly different, so that's why we want to look at it before we connect it and start coding to it. So now I said the other one was server 2, so I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to say set servo P2 from a low of 45 to a high of 90. Now, since I actually want it to start slightly angled up, maybe I'll even put another servo here that says set servo, like at the beginning, set that to 45 so that I am always set at 45. So it's closed, and you might have to kind of double check what's right here. So now I'm going to connect this up. Okay. So you'll see that's at a slight angle, so I have to kind of push this together. And when I do this, you'll notice that it's a little open. I've just pushed it in. Sometimes it's got to push a little hard to get that in there. So now it's there, but you see now the resting is at 45 degrees. So I want it to come down. So now I'm going to also download the program. Right now, I'm going to connect this into P2 because this is connected to P2. Remember, brown is always on to ground, or you can just remember to keep the metal parts up when you connect the servo. All right, here's something you've always got to pay attention to. Since I've got it plugged in, this is showing on, but the servos aren't moving. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is that it's not on in the back of the board. So I have to turn the board on. And now it's chatting. Now, in this case, something interesting is happening. This is making noise on its own because it's a loud motor and it clacks every time it does it. One thing we might want to do is put a little delay in our code so that when it opens and closes, it doesn't just keep making itself open and close. So let's try that. I'm going to close this. Go back to our code. So remember, P2 The other thing I can do one of two things. I'm going to put a delay, but I'm also going to make the sound level threshold a little higher. I want to make it 150 for the teeth because the teeth are so loud, sometimes they make themselves move, their own clickety-clacketing. But I'm also going to put a little time delay in. So I'm going to go to my basic and put a pause in right here. Because this forever is a loop that's just going around and around. And if I don't put that pause in, every time it clacks, it hears it again and then it goes. But if it waits and then it goes, then it won't make itself move. All right, so let's download this code and see how that changed what happened. Oop. Code's downloading. I'm going to turn it on again. So let's change the screen here. So yeah, it's a little less sensitive. You'll see both are moving, but this is now only moving when I talk. And if I don't have that pause or I don't have that sound level, its own teeth. Now, if I put it closer to it, you see it keeps moving because the sound level, it's going around and around. All right. So I'm going to build this using a box. You can use any box. This is a box I'm going to use. And I like this box because I can easily get in there and change things. But here goes. Close this box up. Other tools I like to use for this are something that works with a good way of cutting cardboard. So either scissors, I like the canary cutters, or an X-acto knife, but be very careful. To fasten things down, I'm going to use pipe cleaners. We want to hold on to the templates here, and I'm going to first cut these out because I will use these in a moment. This template is where we're going to fasten it to our cardboard. So I'm going to fasten it to the back of the cardboard. So I'm going to take this and say put it like right here in the middle and cut that outline. And now I have the outline of where I'm going to put the Makey bit, and I'm going to just cut that out right now. Okay, so there's that. Let's see how this fits in here. If I push this in, that now fits nice and tight inside there. Since we've got these working, I'm going to disconnect the servos. Remember, the teeth were connected to the top one and the eyes to the bottom one. All right. So I can now connect my Makey bit into the back of this here. First thing I'm going to do is create a hole. I'll put the teeth on the outside and then the eyes inside. So I'm going to take these teeth and put this right here. You'll see that there is a little hole there of the motor. So I can poke this here, and then the other one I can go under and poke another hole. So I've done that, and I'm going to poke a third bigger hole off to the side for the cable. I've taken this, and I'm going to take my first pipe cleaner, connect it through here, and then connect it through these holes. And I can tighten it. Now I'm going to take this and push it through the back here. And now I've got another, I want to get this to the back, so maybe I'll just make another hole over here that I'm going to put this through. The teeth, we said, are going to go to the top one. So I'm going to connect that there. Let's see what happens when I turn it on. Does it work? Yeah, look. It seems to work. Not bad. Now, if it's moving too much, remember, I can adjust the sound level You see, now I think it's hearing itself, so I might want to adjust the pause and make it even longer. I'm going to increase that pause. First, I'll turn this off. So why is it louder? Well, it's resonating inside the box, so maybe the sensitivity is super loud there. Okay, let's go to the code. We said we're going to increase the pause, maybe 2 milliseconds, and I might even increase, well, the sound level's fine. Let's go with increasing the pause. So it's not going to make it a little less likely for it to hear itself. Now we're going to add the eyes. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. Let's say we want to put the eyes here. Well, you'll notice that there was another set of cutout for the eyes. So what I'll do is cut these out. So here's these eyes. How about we put them right there? So now I'm going to trace it here. Those are the eyes. Cut them out of here. Go on. Okay, so we've got them there. From behind, I can put the eyes so they align with those holes. That looks pretty good there. So now I have these holes here. I can push a hole here and a hole here and use my pipe cleaner. Maybe it'll come from this end. You can also use glue dots or hot glue if you want, but I like pipe cleaners because it's easy to take it apart afterwards. And now I have just used these pipe cleaners to line up the eyes. So now let's take this cable, push it through the hole, and connect it to pin 0 on the back. All right, both are connected. I'm going to download the updated program, and you may have to fine tune it. If it's very loud where you are, you might have to make the sound threshold lower. Just play around with it based on how you want to do this. So I'm downloading the new program. Download it. Plug it in. So we turn it on, and now it's working great. Here we have our working animatronic head, and you can build however you want, but this was just an example of how to build your own.